Hello, my name is Agnes Ea, and this is Naja-Marie Soulié and Rasmus Bak Mejlvang. And we're here today to play a couple of songs for you. And this first one is called Sammen. Mødes i mørket og brænde. Jeg har malet en sol i min pande, så du kan kende mig. Jeg har altid vidst, du ville finde mig til sidst. Jeg har altid vidst, du ville finde mig. Vi danser med strømmen i nat. Er vi vilde og tamme? Er vi vilde og tamme? Se mig nu, mærker du, at vi er den samme? At vi er den samme? Gør det der bange? Vi læner os ind i hinanden. Jeg trykker min sol mod din pande. Vi læner os ind i hinanden. Vi læner os ud over kanten. Og med et kan jeg mærke, vi kun har et hjerte. Vi danser og bærer det sammen. Og med et kan jeg mærke, vi kun har et hjerte. Vi danser og bærer det sammen. Og med et kan jeg mærke, vi kun har et hjerte. Vi danser og bærer det sammen. Og med et kan jeg mærke, vi kun har et hjerte. Vi danser og bærer det sammen. Vi danser og bærer det sammen. Thank you.
Welcome to Gimle Talks. I am Cameron Hoadley, and I'm sitting here with Agnes Ea, lead singer, and then I got Naja-Marie right here, and Rasmus. And I just want to start off this conversation with just saying thank you for coming. I'm very appreciated, and I'm very nervous. I've been listening to your material for quite a bit, and I would just want to start the conversation with how you guys ended up meeting and then coming to the project.
Yeah, well, thank you for having us. It was really nice being invited. I guess we go quite a long way back. I met Rasmus in Tølløse when we went to continuation school that's like 10th grade. And then I had been writing songs for like most of my life, but I had kind of a writer's block through 9th grade and was really like, can I even do music? But then I met a lot of cool people, and among them Rasmus at continuation school, and really rediscovered the joy in music. And then we everyone went to their towns when we finished the school, and Rasmus went to Roskilde, and I come from Kalundborg. But you two met there, I guess, or maybe before
exactly. I don't know. I
Yeah, we
don't
met
think
in Roskilde.
at Amtel, which is just up the hill. Yeah, we went to a very nice. We had a very nice class, and that's where we met. We were at the music kind of path on the gymnasium. That's not called a gymnasium. It's called a high school.
I see. Yeah. And so you guys ended up meeting, and you both did some writing, maybe personally just on the side, just to do some more experimenting. So when did, since it's named after you, when did the project kind of take form and you all started to just write together? When did that start?
For me, Agnes Ea is still quite new. I guess it was kind of a decision to take on an alter ego, or become more. I'd always just performed and been writing as Agnes, with me and Agnes being completely the same person. So I guess Agnes Ea was a way to create some distance, and also being able to try new things and go different ways with the project. And when I did that, it's kind of based off of my songwriting. And when I did that, I asked Rasmus and Naja if they would like to participate in the project, and luckily they did.
I also, like, from an outside perspective, maybe I think there a change happened in the autumn of 2019. We went to, it's called højskole in Denmark.
Mm-hmm.
Directly translates to high school, but it's not at all the same thing.
Yeah.
It's where you have a set of months where you go live at a school. And we went to Jyderup Højskole, and we went to the electronic music. I don't know what it's called. That thing where you learn about electronic music. And since then, Agnes got Ableton Live, and she fired her whole band.
Oh man! Yeah.
She didn't need them anymore. The computer could play it, the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
and
No, I hear
And
you.
then that's a change in the sound, because now the computer can do a lot of things, and we can like try to control it together and make it sound just the right way.
Yeah.
Definitely a big change, I guess, because I also realized I had been trying to collaborate also with other producers, guys who knew the business and wanted to, like, okay, you're a young talent, and I never really felt comfortable in those settings, because I didn't really know the language about production. And I also realized it's a huge part of music, like creating the sound and knowing what you want and knowing what you ask for. So taking electronic music was for me also a way to kind of become my own producer, not being dependent on others to create the sound that I wanted. And of course you can always collaborate, but I just think it's really been empowering to be able to do it yourself.
No, I definitely follow that. And so far with the material that you guys have, it's only been the live recordings. And where I'm very curious is how you guys end up finding your sound. Because the instruments that you guys play is you have the cello as well as the guitar, and you do piano as well as many different instruments, the banjo, and you do the piano and drums. So I would just have to say, when it comes to like the experimenting, do you feel like you have maybe the genre figured out, or are you still in the experimenting stage at the moment?
It's a good question. I don't know if I think you should start maybe.
Yeah, I think today it's become very allowed to mix genres and to experiment, and I really like that. I think it's so hard to like settle on one thing and one sound. I guess also because I'm always like on to the next song, and it's always on the premises of the song, really trying to create the best possible environment for that to grow and to live up to its full potential.
Mm-hmm.
And in that way, I try not to like settle on something too small or to be too certain, but always to ask questions and be open to new sounds. And that's where synthesizers and Ableton is. They can make you can make any sound in that, really. But I like the balancing between the electronic world and also the acoustic world that cello brings into the music. I really like the clashes that it makes and like trying to balance those things.
As an outsider, I'm impressed. Having a classical influence it's incredible, and you're such a nice ad when it comes to it as well, because you kind of cover a bit of the solo and have a lot of emotion coming through it as well. I just have to say.
Thank you.
I also think a lot of the sounds that come through on the live recordings is also brought up by all of the limitations that it brings to be only 3 people and to try to insist upon playing everything. So like to trigger different sounds, I hope that people will maybe notice that after I've said it, or not that it's important, but it's just, I think you could see it when you watch us or listen to it, that it's like we try to form the sounds live, and that's where we as a band get limitations, because we only have so many hands, and we have to try to figure out how to make Agnes's productions feel alive when we play live, and that creates a way we need to go.
Yeah. And so, as far as I know, you guys have done about 4 concerts, very different from one another too. So let's just, go from the first one up to now. How has that evolution felt? You've done some private shows and then you did INSP in front of a large audience. What is that experience like with each one?
I actually really need to go.
Oh,
I'm so sorry.
No, that is okay. It is okay.
Is it okay that I go?
Yeah.
Rasmus has a soccer practice. So.
Yeah, no, it's okay. And just elaborating further on your guys' first experience when it came to playing your first show and then going up to INSP and what that experience has been like. Playing in front of a large audience can kind of be a little exhilarating, but has it lessened the more you've done it, or has it just kind of been the same?
I felt that knowing Agnes and Rasmus like through many years and also playing in different projects before made it feel a lot easier and a lot safer in many ways. So yeah, I didn't feel like very nervous or anything. I felt like that did a big difference. Sure.
Nice. Yeah.
And also, we lived together in a house in Copenhagen with some other people, and I think the first time we showed what we had been practicing was to our roommates, and you weren't allowed to be that many people at that point, so it was a very, very small audience. We had made like a little living room concert, and almost everyone there were there to play and to listen. So everyone was just changing from the stage to the sofa. But it was very comfortable also playing in that setting, trying it out, and doing something. And it was very casual compared to Badestuen, for instance, where to me that was
it felt very formal.
Yeah, it felt very formal, and it was a huge experience, but it was also very nice to be allowed to make it formal. I sewed my own dress for the occasion, and and really tried to dress up and perform and become this Agnes Ea more than me person, and that was really nice to be able to do that.
I hear you. One thing I do want to highlight is that you guys harmonize so well together. It's very impressive. Have you done choir in the past when it came to like in high school, or did you start to, come in sync when you created this project together?
I've done it a bit, but I think you have probably rehearsed choir more.
Yeah, I actually I was in a choir from when I started in elementary school to until the 10th grade, and then 10th grade I was also in a choir. I think I've been in a lot of choirs in my local music school, and yeah, it was nice to sing together. Yeah, and really just like experience the joy of singing. I also had a lot of song teaching, like solo, but I think it's a really nice thing to do, to sing in a choir. And we also traveled together and had some very nice experiences. Yeah.
No, I hear you. And just your main instrument is definitely the cello. And then you said that you have self-taught yourself guitar.
Yeah.
What was, I don't know, the inspiration for that? Was it just you had maybe musicians where it's just like, maybe I want to learn some songs, and then maybe I started to create it myself?
To play guitar or cello?
Maybe a bit of both,
Yeah. I always wanted to play like string instrument, and I actually wanted to play violin, but my parents persuaded me to do that and play cello instead. And I'm quite grateful for that. I mean, there has been a lot of amazing cellists. I think my biggest inspiration is Jacqueline Dupré. She's just amazing, and seeing pictures of her as a child, I just wanted to be her, and then I just moved away from classical music like through the years. But yeah, I think that's like the main inspiration.
I gotcha. I see. If I can ask this, when it came to forming this project, did you have bands in mind or genres that you're like, if we can kind of go in this direction, or did you just form it yourself a little bit, or like groups that you've kind of kept in the back?
I guess we didn't talk that much about references actually, but of course they're there, and we also live together, so you kind of know.
Yeah, we listen to a lot of music together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that way we're in sync. But yeah, I guess I'm inspired by a lot of different people, and also from very different genres. But I guess my main inspiration is people like Feist and Mitski and Björk and Kate Bush and Jenny Wahl. A lot of strong women who experiment a lot and feel very true to themselves when they express themselves.
I did notice that you guys are fans of Boy Genius and Esperanza Spalding. Did notice that. And Fiona Apple as well. Yeah?
Yes.
No, that's the theme. And I have to say that I appreciate them as well. But no, and that's what I kind of find inspiring is just to talk about my experience with music. There's, it's like the onslaught of like male artists. And I remember sitting down with my friends, and we share and collab with music all the time, trying to like find new material that we think we would enjoy. And we realized that a lot of it was male, and we didn't have a lot of female artists. So we decided to create a collab playlist in particular just for female artists. And just kind of the revelation of how different of a sound and ways it can go has been really eye-opening. And those are some of the artists that we came across that if it wasn't for that push, we wouldn't have been able to find them before. So, no, thanks for adding more to that material, because I sent them your material as well. Absolutely love it too, I have to say. So,
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's no problem. But, no, I guess when it comes to this, what would you say you would want the future of this project to kind of look like? Do you have any dreams or anything like that? Or is it just kind of going with the flow and wanting to keep it like in the Danish roots and just see how it goes?
Right now, I'm generating a lot of new material and hoping to share some of it maybe in the fall. Yeah. So that's but it's not very concrete yet. It's just a lot of ideas and sketches and things. But yeah, right now I think staying in the Danish roots. But I've also, like when I was younger, I wrote a lot of English lyrics, and then I've had a long period of writing in Danish, and now I kind of miss it. So it's like it's a pendulum going from back and forth between them, and maybe they're not as maybe it doesn't have to be as black and white as I've always put it like, are you a Danish artist or are you trying to be an international artist or something? But also in the Danish language, just in our language from every day, there's so much English there that it's funny that you cannot mix it within songs.
Yeah, and one thing is I've been able to look into the lyrics a little bit, and very poetic, like incredibly poetic. Can I ask if it's more, do you have like a location that you go to when you come to your writing, or like an internal, you kind of feel it out? How do you start when it comes to writing? Because sometimes that I see just on BlackBerry alone, the song that you have in your room, it's based off of like a specific night or something like that, or maybe nights, and it's the feeling that you have with someone else. Is that a theme that has taken shape over other material, or is it you're just experimenting still?
I guess I've always been a collector of words and situations and feelings, bringing a notebook everywhere to be able to write it down. So I always have a lot of notes, and then some of those translate into songs. And sometimes it's from my own experiences, and sometimes it's from watching movies and reading books, and inspiration can come from so many places. Talking with friends and listening to their stories, their heartbreaks, and trying to find a language for that and music for that.
Yeah. So when it came to the first song that you guys played, it's about, remembering what summer's like and being with large groups of people. What about the next song that's going to be coming on? What would that one be? What's the origin of that one?
The origin of that one is it's called Sammen, billede, which translates to as a picture. And for me, it's about how in many of relationships, especially these days, we experience them through pictures that people share of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And the feeling of, I know this person so well, but still I've become so distanced from them. It's so far away, and we only show the pretty part of ourselves. So the song is about, seeing a picture of someone who's moved into their new apartment, starting a new life, sitting in the windowsill and looking out at the world and realizing, I don't know where my friend has moved to. Like, it could be anywhere, and it could be any window where they're sitting and looking out and catching yourself looking up at windows and thinking, could it be it's one of these places? And could it be that you were sitting there, and would you notice me? Do you look for me in the street when you sit there? And what goes through your mind? And then it's kind of like projecting your own feelings onto this friend, because you don't really know what they're feeling, so you just try to translate that, or try to connect yourself with that.
No, I love that, I have to say, because I always, especially when it came to the lyrics that you write, it's internal, and it's kind of like feeling. It's like you're responding to what's happening externally, and then you're trying to articulate it to yourself and put it into words, right? And especially like creating a scene. And I don't know. It can be difficult, especially as someone that's external to, I've had nights with Blackberry, the song, and, you're sitting there and you're like, if everyone's having a good time, and then it's receptive to you, and if you're having a good time. And I think, especially if you're able to maybe not reflect on it in a real sense, maybe if you're on social media and you have that thought and then you just want to write out, or you can kind of just create it completely out of nowhere, where it's like it's either being a dream or sometimes reality. Do you kind of blend the two a little bit when it comes to writing?
Yeah, I guess I don't recall seeing a picture of someone in a new apartment. I don't know where that came from, but just, being exposed to a lot of social media and kind of imagining it too, maybe. So I guess, reality and dreams or visions become blurred. Also because when I collect all this stuff in a notebook, then I mix and match, this situation that fits with these words from a totally other situation that maybe was a real conversation, and this was a dream, and then it kind of becomes its own story.
I hear you. And do you also write on the side at all, or is it?
No. It's only Agnes. So yeah.
And
but you write songs too?
Yeah, I do, but not in this project. It's Agnes. It's the songwriter.
I see. If it comes to like your solo work, when you're doing the cello, like playing cello, is it they're playing in the background and then you kind of feel it out? Because when it's some of the songs, you do kind of do some solo and then help build and elevate the feeling. Do you, when it comes to the writing process, do you record and then write it down just so you make sure that you can kind of hit the same pitches, or do you do it the opposite where you write it out and then kind of hit it?
I don't really use notation when I write cello anymore. I've moved into playing a lot of folk music, and
really?
You have to like the tradition in folk music is playing by ear always. So yeah, that's how I write with cello.
That's really cool. Awesome. So can you remind me the name of the next song that's going to be playing?
Sammen, billede.
Perfect. All right, I'm excited to hear it, guys.
This song is called Sammen, billede. Hun sidder i sin vindueskarm og kigger ned på gaden. Hun kigger ned på gaden næsten hele tiden. I den nye lejlighed, de blanke hvide vægge stiger sammen forstenet potentiale, ligesom dig. Nat og dag går ud og ind af dit synsfelt. Nat og dag går ud og ind af dig. Jeg så, du lagde et billede op. Du sad i vindueskarmen og kiggede ned på folk, der gik på gaden ligesom mig. Kigger du ud, kigger du indad, kigger du efter mig. Jeg ser dig som et billede, ser dig som et billede for mig nu. Ser dig som et billede, ser dig som et billede for mig nu.
It's good to sit with you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You too.
I have to say, and this is me figuring that out just talking with you, that you have a persona that you want to create. Let me see. How can I word this correctly? So you were wanting to get far away from, not far away, but you wanted to have some more experimenting with not applying it to yourself as much, and then you wanted to create this persona. So with this new, what would you say is the stark differences between the two?
I guess I wanted to create a persona like an ultra me, or try to emphasize some parts of me, because you know sometimes you can feel like you are a lot of people at once.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that can be confusing as an artist, sometimes trying to figure out how to balance those people out. Like I said before, like I've been writing on many different instruments and writing many different genres of songs. And it's hard to try to connect all those dots into one person. And I tried to do that for a long time, really tried to try to contain everything in one person, and that just became hard. So I guess also deciding to create an extra name for myself, like putting the Ea behind my own name, was a decision to, okay, this is one part of me. This is not that it's not all the different parts still talking, but it's more an active choice of also trying to say this is the electronic part where I try to produce and write the songs myself and put them in this context, and then see what happens, because when you try to do everything at once, you end up doing nothing really.
Yeah, it
so
can get
trying to
clustered.
be more specific about my intentions and putting them into this one person. And still I googled a lot of names trying to figure out what to call this person. And you know, if you Google it, there are a lot of meanings of the names. What are the history, and what are the different, what do they symbolize? And Ea meant both she and he in different languages, and it meant fire, but it also meant this water god in ancient Roman or Greek mythology. So I guess this duality between water and fire and femininity and masculinity, it really like intrigued me, trying to balance these things, or trying to find the balance. I think that's what Agnes Ea is.
I see. That can be chaotic a little bit.
Yeah.
It sounds like. And where would you say, especially in the writing process, when did you start writing, just personally?
I think my first memory of writing a song or improvising a song was when we had to go to my grandparents when I was small. There was a long drive up there, or it felt like a long drive when I was little, and I didn't really know what to do with my time, and so I just started singing about what we were passing by, like there's a tree and there's a car, and I did that for the whole trip, and it's 1.5 hours. Just singing about the world. And I guess that's how it started. I also have some videos of me as a child, like singing to my smaller siblings to try to calm them down. Just be calm. Just singing what came to mind. But it's just kind of been a thing that has followed me as I grew up, and sometimes I kind of grew apart from it, but it always came back, I guess, as a way of understanding the world, really, or trying to put meaning into the world. That it's not just another 1.5 hours spent, but those 1.5 hours, they meant something. They became a story. And I think that really gives the world some kind of meaning to me, to turn it into moments that can be shared afterwards.
Wow. No, I love that, I have to say. Yeah. It's one way to interpret it, because I know there's many moments in life, and sometimes they can be some taken for granted or be amplified just because it was something so subtle. You know, one thing that I enjoy doing myself is trying to enjoy the little things in life. So even if it was just like a simple car ride, like the people that you're with in that car, and you know, if there was just a solo tree and then you just can remember that tree every single time, I think that's very interesting, and that's what you apply to your writing. What was the process like? What was the first instrument that you actually picked up when you applied it to like your lyrics that you're writing?
I think that was piano, actually, yeah. So it's become full circle now. I've returned. Yeah, and then my father played a lot of guitar. I remember him just taking me from the floor and putting me on a table when we went to family parties, and then just starting to play, and then I could sing some Kim Larsen song or anything.
Nice. And piano, when did that start? When you were in your single digits, or when you were probably like a teenager, or in?
Yeah, my parents put me in music school when I was 2 years old.
Wow, okay. Well, they knew what you were going to become,
yeah.
right?
No, but they had this class called Rhythm, where children would just like be given stuff to bang together,
Yeah.
and the parents were there as well. And since then, I stayed very much at that music school, and I took classes in piano, and then I changed to guitar, and then it was more like singing, and so it kind of changed along the way, but it was very much that place that was the foundation of it.
No, that's cool. And then you picked up the banjo, and
yeah, I had been talking about picking up the banjo. I really liked the sound that it has, and also it's very specifically connected to bluegrass and country genre.
mm-hmm.
And that's also interesting, like trying to see what will that sound mean if you put it in another context, trying to explore that. And then Rasmus' father actually gave me my banjo for as a Christmas present. He had found it on Den Blå Avis, like a Danish place for used things, and that started the whole banjo experience, like 3 years ago, maybe now.
Oh, you got quite a talent now with the banjo. And so you've been writing on your own. How many? I'm assuming, is it like a whole book that you have to yourself now, or what would you say, especially when it comes to moments? What do you tend to like write about, especially now, like where you started, which was just kind of capturing moments? Do you still do that, or has it evolved over the years?
Yeah, it's constantly evolving, but I guess if I kind of zoom out and look at it from a bird's perspective, there's some themes that kind of go through all the songs, and they're very much about being alone or having a sense of belonging.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of dilemma, I guess, as a teenager, I had a really long period, and I guess this is very usual, but I had a long period where I didn't really feel like I belonged anywhere or to anyone, and that was just really lonely.
Mhm.
And so I think that's kind of, and sometimes I love to be alone as well. That alone and lonely are not the same thing, and you can be around a lot of people and at the same time feel extremely lonely. But I guess that's something I discover a lot in my songs. It can be in a lot of different relationships, to friends and to family, and more love relationships. But yeah, it's always like trying to belong, and I guess music is that for me too. Like when you're at a concert and you experience something together, also just with strangers, but you have the same experience. And I just think music can do that, and it's very powerful.
No, I love the community as well. And even when it came to like those feelings that you're having as a teenager, they resonate with so many. And I would say, especially now that you're able to write it into a song and play in front of an audience, you see a lot of people resonate with the words that you were saying. Do you think that helped solidify that you weren't necessarily alone the entire time, that this was a collective thought everyone had with each other, that they want this sense of connection and always feel like that they're missing it, missing the shot every single time? That music, especially bringing a crowd together, that they can all embrace that feeling and that they're not all alone. Because I find some addiction going to concerts, and you hear the guitar and everything just fall into place so well, and you can see that the people on stage, they're in tune with each other, and that has an effect on the audience. And especially watching you guys play, you're always looking at each other and just, I would say, vibing a little bit. Has that, I would say, played a role, especially if you were feeling alone, that every time that you're on stage that you feel that sense of community that you're always yearning for? Or is that still the search a little bit?
Yeah, that's a very strong sense of community. When we played at Badestuen, I really felt the warmth of the audience, and I love that. I think that's something you could get addicted to. Mm-hmm. But I guess, yeah, and not, it was not only as a teenager that I felt alone. I think it's very easy in our society to feel disconnected or detached in some way, like, yeah, because of many things. But I just think there's been a lot of pressure put on us to be individuals, and sometimes maybe that's not where we are at our best.
I see. Yeah. And with this persona, do you find it more easier for yourself to be more honest? Like, has it applied to your writing with the Agnes Ea, where you weren't able to say or feel certain ways, that you had this projection of this thing, the project, and that you can articulate it in a different way, like you're sitting and having a conversation with yourself, and in that way you can dive deeper into it? Has that been playing a role a little bit, or is that it's more of the experimenting and wanting to just keep it at a distance?
I think I'm sometimes able to come closer to it because it's not entirely me. It's so difficult to see yourself, really, because we all want to see the best parts of us and try to, maintain the image that we have created of who we are. So I think maybe looking at it as another person makes it easier also to bring out some of the more difficult things to talk about, and to make it I don't know, less private but still personal.
Yeah. certain point in my life, I used to go by a different name. And that was what I was doing throughout my childhood, up to like 21 years. I was even going by my real name. And when it finally hit that point, I remember just seeing the people that knew me so well. And I'm like, I want to change. And but I knew if I started to change, people would notice. And then they would let me know, being like, hey, that's not usually you. So I took that as an opportunity to move to a new place and change my name and work on maybe the weaknesses that I've always viewed in myself, and to try and reapply it and make them my strengths. And I think that is in some cases very incredible and freeing, right? That you can do something like that for yourself. So do you, especially in this moment, because you just created this first persona, like, are you already thinking of like maybe something else that can kind of maybe the instruments that you're currently playing with this project that you would maybe want to play it elsewhere, or maybe go a different route of just, if it's got the folk influence that you have right now with the banjo, that it could be more the electronic or anything on the lines of that. Have you thought about that at all? Or is this just, I want to put as much energy into this as I can because I'm in love with what's going on right now?
I really have an energy about this project right now, which is really nice. Like I want to put my time into it. But it's so nice to do other things as well, and with other people, and be influenced by them. I have a band called the Pablos, which is like, we play gypsy, jazz, pop, something, and the lyrics that I write for those things are they're English, and it's very danceable music and just a whole other thing. And I think that it's nice to have several projects, so you don't just, that I don't become tired of myself, because it's a lot of looking at yourself and feeling and being. And it's also nice to just play the music with other people and have a good time. So there's definitely you need to find a balance there. For me, I have to find a balance there, but I have a good feeling about Agnes Ea right now, and maybe it'll become other names and other things. Yeah. It's nice to be able to change, to have the possibility.
I know, you never know what's around the corner. A little bit makes it kind of exciting. How has it been? Because I know you told me this a little earlier, that you write in English and Danish. And do you want to keep the roots, or, because I know, and I don't get to live with this, speaking two languages, it's always English in my head. But I would assume that internally it's still Danish, and then you can kind of express in English. How is it like? Do you approach writing differently when you're writing in a different language, or is it still very much the same?
I think I heard people saying this also about when they change, when they learn another language, they kind of become another person with that language.
Yeah.
Like you have different people inside you, like I said before, and they also belong to each language. Like you can be the funny one when you talk in English, but then when you're in Danish, you're suddenly a very serious person, and you don't really know yourself or whatever. But I think there are definitely some other things that I find myself going into when I sing in English. I think it's a very lovely language to sing on. Sometimes Danish can be so frustrating and flat and hard to make soft and into music. And I think English is very easy to make something that sounds good, but it's also kind of dangerous, because then you can just say anything and it sounds quite nice. and it's easier for me to fall into cliches when I write in English, because I don't hear them as much. When it's in Danish, it's so painfully obvious when you're doing something that sounds like it sounds like something else, or it's just a cliche. But in English, love rhymes with glove. I don't know, you have to be more attentive, I think, when it's not your mother tongue, what you express, so you just don't, just fall into the same rhymes and get kind of forført. I don't know what the English, seduced by the language. Yeah.
That's good insight, because I've never written in any other language, and I hear that all the time, that people do have different personas when they're speaking a different language.
Do you ever notice it when Danish people sing in English, or do you feel like it sounds natural? Like, as an American, I'm very curious to know that, if you're like, ooh, it kind of disturbs you, or is it just
No,
doesn't bother?
the ones that I've heard so far, they're very talented and can word it in a way, and I would agree, because I do get to live in the luxury of having most things in English, but so far, just hearing you sing and Bisiden as well, because they have such a folk influence in their music, it plays very well, and I would maybe even disagree with you that I find the Danish language, it's so close to German, and it just, like, some octaves just hit higher than others. I've always viewed English to kind of be monotone. I'm a very monotone speaker sometimes, so maybe that's where I get that perspective. But yeah, I think, especially hearing it and not understanding language, it just makes me listen to the melodies and the very ambient stuff in the background. But I think you singing in your language just brings it back to the roots, and you kind of get to define how the language should sound when it comes to music. Like, if you feel like that is a weakness of it, then you're defying that and showing that it doesn't have to necessarily be that way. But how is it with your experience? Do you want to kind of take an international field where if you're going to be playing in other areas, that you would hope that you can sing in Danish, or what would your hopes be when it comes to that?
Yeah, it's I've been thinking about that lately, because when you just write songs, you don't think about, like, who could listen to this, how big is my audience. But when you sing in Danish, you really choose to narrow down the possibility of your audience. Like you said, it's like 1/5 of Washington or something.
Yeah, it's 1/4 the size.
1/4, yeah. So yeah, you limit yourself a great deal there. But right now, I think I have some songs in me that need to be Danish.
No, and that's what I find important. Thankfully, in my country, and this is maybe just the crowd I tend to associate with, is they don't just listen to stuff that's in English. I see, and what the revelation that I had is going to a different country, and they don't speak a word of English, but they're listening to English songs. I hope that takes shape, especially around the world, where people can kind of embrace that they don't hear necessarily the lyrics, but they can hear the harmonies and a lot of the talent behind it, and that you may not have to make a switch at all, and that it can resonate with a much larger audience in that way. So that's really cool, I have to say. Yeah, you are very talented with what you do, and I have to just say thank you again for coming, and very insightful when it comes to the work. Maybe the last question I want to ask is, what is one of the biggest challenges you've had as, like, a writer or as an artist that you wouldn't have known, or maybe you got advice later on that helped, that could be helpful to people that are maybe struggling with writer's block, or they're hitting a bump in the road that you could be like, this is what helped?
I guess one of my big challenges that I've found after writing a lot of songs and looking back on them is that, like, it's maybe my greatest strength, but also my greatest weakness, that I am very, it sounds stupid when you say that about yourself, but I guess I'm a very empathetic person. Like, I feel like I can sometimes feel what the person in front of me needs me to be and fill out that space, like trying to fit other people's needs. And that's a very good thing, I think, because you can feel, you try to feel how other people are and not just go your own way and push through no matter the consequences. But in my writing, it has also been a theme that when I wrote, when I look back at my first 50 songs or something, then they all had a you in them that played a very big part. Like almost there was an I present, but it was almost always, the you who dictated the story. I was just, writing as an observer and also living as an observer. And I think trying to actively choose to participate or actively shape the story that you're taking place in, and not just, when you feel alone, trying to engage with other people. Because I think when I felt disconnected, I kind of just let go and let myself float instead of trying to grab onto people. And I've been really practicing that in my songwriting, like trying to create a stronger sense of I am this person talking and I have an influence on the story. Even if this you is a bad person, I can choose how I want to react to that. I can choose to walk away from it, or I can argue with that, and I can participate in the story and not just observe it.
No, it reminds me of a friend of mine and the band that they formed. They're close friends, and I'm just so happy that I got to know them. Very close. They told me, especially in private, that the moment that they feel like that they're not making the music for themselves, it's not the band that they want. So whenever they choose to go a different genre, which is just like noise, like it's just the loudest thing, and like you sit and as a audience member, you're just like, what am I listening to? But they're having the time of their lives doing it, and that they needed to make that disconnection, that the motivation is for them to create something new and that is uniquely themselves. And whoever chooses to be a fan or to listen to their stuff can understand that that is the origin of the project for them. And I think, especially for you to, be empathetic, I think it's good to be a little selfish and just to write for yourself and to find whatever avenue you need to. But I think a lot of people can agree that if you're always looking and trying to please others, that's not going to always benefit you in the long run. So no, that's really nice.
Yeah, and definitely, like you said before, try to look at your weaknesses and make them into strengths. Like using that to portray people in a way that comes closer to the truth, because you really look and you really listen, and that's something too that has a value too.
No, I agree. So, what would this next song be that you're going to be playing with your project? What is it called?
It's called Nadi Plavinda.
Awesome. All right. I'm excited to hear it.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Jeg er tidevand, du er måne. Træk mig ind til dig, skub mig væk igen. Mærker altid dine øjne på min ryg. Jeg gør mig til en anden for dit blik. I mørket bliver du så utydelig. Ligner næsten den jeg blev forelsket i. mere modstand. Jeg er vred, fordi du altid lader mig gå. Hold mig fast og sig, at jeg ikke må. Men du giver mig et kys og siger farvel.